right. We need to make a couple of rules about how we deal with no hitters.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they call it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTubes, and follow me here, subscribe here, like, share, become one of us. One of us. One of us. That's right. And if you do happen to drop a comment as I hold up a highlighter, make sure to put on that hashtag. Where's the hashtag? Right there. I'm going to highlight the hashtag right there. Everyday Sully. There you go. So you can remember it. And that, believe it or not, helps us. It sounds strange, but it does help us. Let's talk a little bit about the trivia question, which was brought to us by our good friend who's the F-16 pilot who listens to us, was asking us about when the Padres did win a championship. And I believe he was talking about the 1979, actually it was 1980, made-for-TV film, The Kid from Left Field, with Gary Coleman and the late great Robert Guillaume. It's actually the late great Gary Coleman as well, which is a remake of a 1950s film, but no one remembers that. They remember the one where Gary Coleman leads the Padres to the World Series as a manager. And the trivia question was, who played the owner of the Padres in that movie? And Big John 08865, who I assume saw it when it was on ABC when it came out, Ed McMahon of the Tonight Show played the fictional owner of the Padres in the Kid from Left Field. That's right, the great Ed McMahon, who I think had to be reminded he was on set. I think he was plowed when they did it. And in it, he says that he is the son of the former owner of the Padres, and they hadn't won a World Series since his father owned it, which showed you how much baseball research they did on that freaking movie. It would have been more interesting if it was the Padres have never won. But there you go. That's right. Ed McMahon played the owner of the Padres in that. I rewatched that. There you go. I rewatched it, but it's not good, but it's fun. And as I said the other day, Robert Guillaume, who most people know as the title character of the sitcom Benson, he played the part of Benson on the show Soap, and later there's the spinoff of Benson, of which the house, which they use for the opening credits of Benson, is about a 5-minute drive from where I'm currently sitting right now. He's a wonderful actor, by the way. He if you've ever seen the film Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, Robert Guillaume has an amazing scene where he stands up to him. Great actor. But it's fun. By the way, we have a little in joke we have amongst the Locked On hosts when we get together and have our meetings, and sometimes do a multi-host show that you see from time to time. And the question is always, what team does Sully hate today? I've been considered a hater of I think all 30 teams at this point. And I can tell you there are very few teams that I actually dislike, that I actually root against. I'm a native New Englander, so you could probably figure out who one of the teams is. But one of the teams I don't hate and actually would love to see them win, because I know how much it would mean to those fans, are the Mets. But of course, Andrew JT comes right in and says, tough weekend for Met haters like you. I know you're kidding, Andrew, but it's like I had someone's, because I was questioning whether or not the Phillies would do well a couple of years ago when they were going into a series against Miami, and the Phillies won, and someone said to me, "Oh, your precious Marlins lost." I said, "How did I become a Marlin fan? How did this happen? Why do I don't hate the Phillies. I like the Phillies. I'll see the Phillies do well. There are very few teams I don't want to see do well. That's actually true. It's actually true. By the way, Johnny T16, which is much to my chagrin, not a Star Wars reference, said, "How did my Giants lose today?" Because it happens. Every once in a while, you have a meltdown. And this weekend, we'll get to this in the second segment. There were a bunch of meltdowns. There were a whole bunch of meltdowns. And some of the meltdowns did not result in a loss, but holy Toledo, some people are going to have to start looking at their bullpen. But one team that didn't have to look at their bullpen today were the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees got a great performance today from their ace, and they need that. Look, the Yankees are off to a good start. There's no getting around that. The Yankees are in first place. It helped them that the Blue Jays just looked awful right out of the gate in the game against Seattle today. And the Yankees are 14-8. You can't, if you have a team that just lost Juan Soto, just lost Garrett Cole for the year, and currently Giancarlo Stanton and I are tied in all statistical categories. The fact that they are currently 14-8 is pretty. That's as good as you can ask for. And Max Fried came in, and look at I'm not a big fan of look at the win-loss record because that doesn't tell you much. But when you see someone's 4-0 and his ERA is 1.42, that does tell you at least, hey, he's at least putting his team in a position to win. And you can't ask for more than that. And today he did everything you could ask. And through 7 innings, he had himself a no-hitter. And good for Aaron Boone that he didn't come up to him and say, okay, well, according to the spreadsheet here, you should not throw more than this and and sent him out for the 8th inning to continue the no-hitter. Except someone in the scoring booth at George Steinbrenner Field, the home of the Rays, still weird, found out that, hey, that little that error that we charged earlier in the game, that was a hit. So the no-hitter was broken up by someone scratching a pencil instead of something happening on the field. And for that, I'm really, really mad about that. And I think we need to do something about that. Because part of baseball is having the drama and the excitement. And there are people, when you see that there's a no-hitter going into the 8th, I don't care where the hell they're playing. I'm always tuning into that because I want to see, all right, this is it. It's real. A no-hitter. Once you get past, a no-hitter, 5th, 6th inning, okay, that's nothing. 7th inning, something could be here. No-hitter into the 8th. Okay, here we go. They just got 6 outs to go. Now, normally managers say, and we're done. Bring in the parade of relievers because that's what the stats tell us to do. And I hate that. I think that if you remove a pitcher from a no-hitter and they have under 100 pitches, you lose your first-round draft pick. That's it. That's it. You lose it. You don't get a draft pick. You don't get a draft pick this year. You have to sit it out. I'm actually not kidding about that. But in this case, he was allowed to come out in the 8th, but no, they ruined it by changing the ruling earlier. Who did that benefit? Who did that benefit changing the scoring of what was an error and then change it to a hit at that moment when there was still a no-hitter going on? If it was a one-hitter and they changed that, not a single person would burp. But by doing that, especially killing the drama of the moment, I mean, can baseball do more things to sabotage the drama of their game? This is one of the most exciting things in baseball is a no-hitter. And they're actually allowing, God forbid, to have a pitcher throw a complete game no-hitter instead of a combined no-hitter. And some guy named Clyde just actually looking at that, I don't know. I'm going to call that a hit. I'm going to end all drama here. Seriously? We need to enact my rule, which is called the CC Sabathia Rule. Okay? And this is the CC Sabathia Rule. That the first hit of every game from a scorekeeper's point of view has to be clean. If there's a question, error, hit, mark it an error until there's a clean hit. Now, if there's a clean hit, you go back to the error and you change your mind on that, you flip it. But the first hit of every game has to be a clean hit. Can't be a moment. If the scorekeeper, if anyone turns to the scorekeeper, you go, no, then it's an error. It's an error. And you know what a clean hit is. Base hit through the middle, or if it's like an infield hit, it's like a slow roller and they pick it up and, oh, there's no play, or they throw it to first, but by the time he beat the throw, it's a hit. Okay? If you have to turn to the scorekeeper and it's the first hit of the game, mark it as an error. And if you change your mind later, after a clean hit. Why am I calling it the CC Sabathia Rule? I'm calling it the CC Sabathia Rule based upon a game that CC Sabathia played back when he was a rental car for the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Brewers, I bet some of you forgot that era of CC Sabathia even happened. But in a game on August 31st, 2008, and the Brewers had acquired CC Sabathia for the stretch run. And they basically threw a complete game every single time. I mean, it was amazing. And because they said, he's not resigning with us, so what do we care? Now, in a game against a Pirate team who was completely out of it, they were already about 20 games under 500 on the last game of August. And Sabathia was pitching. And in the fourth inning, no, not the fourth inning, I'm sorry, where the heck is it? In the fifth inning, Andy LaRoche hit a weak ground ball in front of home plate. And there was a play, there was a little fumbling, and it was called safe, and it could have been an error, and it was ruled a hit. That was the only hit of the game. If that was ruled an error, which it looked like, I remember seeing, I think I would rule that an error. It was a one-hitter. A one-hitter. It was a masterpiece. He walked 3 batters. He struck out 11. Now, for the Brewers, who made it to the playoffs on the final day of the season, that was all they needed. Complete game shutout masterpiece by CC Sabathia. But if that one hit was questionable, he would have had a no-hitter. Or maybe he wouldn't have. And maybe he would have let up a hit. But you have the first hit always be clean. We're trying to develop drama here. We're trying to develop fun. We're trying to develop a reason to watch the game. And if you have a game which normally you wouldn't be paying attention to, but suddenly it's like you text your friends, like, hey, such and such has a no-hitter going into the ninth. Let's go, make sure to turn it on. Make sure to turn it on. You don't want that, if they get a hit, like, I remember Yu Darvish had a perfect game with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and then Marwin Gonzalez got a base hit up the middle. You go, but at least you go, because someone got the big hit. Someone did it right. So we need to enact the CC Sabathia Rule. The first hit of every game, whether it's in the first inning or in the bottom of the 9th, has to be clean. If you have to turn to the scorekeeper, screw it. It's an error. It's an error. And if it turns out that, hey, they wind up getting a clean hit, you want to change your mind, there you go. If you think I'm wrong, first of all, you're wrong. But secondly, tell me why. Because remember, I'm trying to have fun. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, hey, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and streaming stuff, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money isn't a budgeting app. It's not just that, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money, start building wealth. And when I started using Monarch, I realized there was lots of subscriptions and things like that was chipping away at my available balance. Now, instead of lots of apps, you can use Monarch to check in on your finances, track spending, and even make long-term goals. And if you have a partner, you have a spouse, whoever you manage your money with, You know what? You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. This was a really bananas weekend for baseball. Lots of crazy games. You saw the White Sox came from behind against the Red Sox today. That's a kick to the fruit stand when you lose a game to the White Sox like that. And the Giants uh, the Giants blew a game where they had the lead. The Giants were they allowed 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth in a actually they were, I'm sorry 4 runs in the bottom of the ninth against the Angels. I mean, if the Giants can't afford to lose many games like that. You know, they're going into the bottom of the ninth up 4-1, and Ohapi singles, and then there was the hit by pitch, and then what was it? Who was it? Was it Joe? Yeah, it was Joe Adell hit a drive down the left field line and basically cleared the bases. And it was a weird weekend for Mike Trout, because you look at his batting average is plummeting, his OPS is okay, but he got on base twice, scored a key run today, hit 2 home runs the other day. It's like he's having a weird year this year. But this is if the Giants are a team that are a surprising team and want to stay contending, you can't blow games like that. You really, really can't because you don't have the infrastructure to blow lots of games like that. Give credit to the Rangers for having a come from behind victory with a walk-off home run by Adolis Garcia not long after he made a great catch, hit a walk-off home run the other day. Someone else wrote something here. Someone made a comment here. Ellie De La Cruz in the catch was right. Yes, De La Cruz made a great play. By the way, the Reds won 24-2 against Baltimore, and I love the fact that there was a save. It was one of those 3-inning saves by Mr. Wynn. By the way, Charlie Morton, who was the man on the mound when the Astros won that World Series, we must not talk about, and later won a second World Series ring for his troubles with the Atlanta Braves, looks awful. He's again, I don't like to put too much weight on the win-loss record, but he's 0-5 and his ERA is over 10. They might be done. They might be done. There was a wild comeback today in Pittsburgh where the Pirates scored 3 in the bottom of the ninth and then lost the game anyway in the when Cleveland wound up rallying there. The Miami Marlins were in a situation where they rallied. They scored 4 runs between the 7th and 8th inning and then wound up winning the game in the 10th and wiggled out of some big, big trouble against the Philadelphia Phillies in a wild 9th inning. And there you have that. You saw on the other day, you saw the other day there was what was it? In a game between two teams that are not going anywhere. But the Nationals and the Rockies had a classic Coors game feel. It was 12-11, and the Nats wound up giving up 9 unanswered runs at the end of the game and held on. The Rockies scored 8 runs in the 7th inning and 1 in the 9th, and it wasn't enough. When you score 9 runs in 3 innings and it's not enough, I'm sorry. The same thing basically happened with Miami the day before, where they scored 6 runs at the top of the ninth inning to pull a blowout and made it really tight. And Rowdy Tellez, who everybody should love, Rowdy Tellez, he wound up getting a grand slam against his old team in a really kind of bitter game between Toronto and Seattle, where Barrios was basically staring down Cal Raleigh and making his life hell. And that was just a crazy game, and the type of game that Toronto can't afford to lose because, again, like the Giants, they're a team without huge expectations, and they got off to a really good start. When you're a team like that, you want to finish your April with a winning record and showing that you're not underwater yet, okay? And the Giants are doing a good job of that. The Angels are doing a good job of that. Toronto is doing a good job of that, but you can't afford to lose games where you have a solid lead and you're heading into extra innings. And by the way, the Yankees, as who I said, are off to a terrific start, and they bounced back with the Max Fried. It turned. By the way, I can't get too upset with the Max Fried because eventually they changed the ruling and made the error hit, but then he let up a clean hit. So you can say, okay, he did let up a clean hit, but it would have been nice to, I don't know, have the drama of the eighth inning. Really, that's where we're going. But the Yankees lost a bizarre game on Saturday where they had an 8-4 lead, and Devin Williams, who, they brought him in from Milwaukee. He's not been good. He has not been good. The man's ERA is 9. If I'm the Yankees, I put Weaver into close for a little bit because Williams, since letting up that home run to Pete Alonso, has been a big pile of bad, and he's not doing the job this year. And they put him in a pressure-free game where it was 8-4, and it wasn't all his fault. Infield hit, there were a couple infield hits and a bad throw, but there was also a couple of walks and stolen bases. And next thing you know, 8-4 turned into 8-8. And it took a phenomenal double play to send the game into extra innings, of which Jonathan Aranda hit a leadoff 2-run homer. A leadoff 2-run homer because of the ghost runner. There you go. But yeah, so really, really wild games, really tremendous games. And we saw in the games that were played on Sunday, the big players who own baseball include Max Fried, of course, with the no-hitter. Logan Henderson made his big league debut for the Milwaukee Brewers and struck out 9 Sacramento batters in 6 innings, and the Brewers won that. Kyle Manzardo got a big home run and single in Cleveland's 5-4 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Noel V. Marte got 10 bases with his 5 hits, got a homer, drove in 7 in that 24-2 win. Half wobs to Byron Buxton Sam of the Twins, Sam Huff of the Giants, Tyler Mahle of the Rangers, and Justin Verlander, who has been disappointing so far, but he pitched well against the Angels. And then the Giants bullpen said, spill my beer. When we come back, I want to tell you about a game that was playing in my classroom and the great updates I got, and then a dream that I had. I've mentioned before that I am a teacher in a special education class. Many of my kids are on the autism spectrum, and they're a great bunch of kids, smart, capable of doing a lot of things, a lot more than some people are making out to be out there. And I have a kid, I'm just going to call him D, and he is a huge baseball fan. He's very much on the spectrum. And I found out early, this is my 3rd year with him in my class, and he loves the Dodgers, which he calls them the Ds. And a lot of times during lunch or when we have kind of a more free day, I'll have on a small screen kind of near my desk, whatever day game is on, and I'll be playing that. And he will say updates to me, when I'm teaching lessons or I'm working with one of the other kids, and like, Mr. Sullivan, they got a homer. So, okay, buddy. Okay, D, tell me more. Well, much to my wonderful delight, on Friday, the Friday before this weekend, we had it was a Friday. It was Easter's coming up. While we don't obviously celebrate the religious parts of Easter, we have just we had a fun kind of spring party, Easter party. And we all made, there was food, we cooked, we did crafts and everything with my class. It was a lot of fun. And I had the game playing, and it was the Arizona-Chicago game, of which going into the bottom of the 7th was a 2-1 Cubs lead. And I was kind of going from station to station in my classroom, checking on the arts and crafts, seeing how they're doing here, checking how they're doing there. And my buddy D kept saying updates. He's like, Mr. Sullivan, they hit a grand slam. Oh, cool. They got a grand slam. Cool. Mr. Sullivan, Cubs scored another one. And I looked up, and it was 7-1 Cubs. And I was like, okay, maybe I should turn this game off. But D was enjoying it. So I was working with another kid, and he said, They hit another grand slam. And I said, "No, buddy, they just showed a repeat of the previous grand slam." And there was a long pause. That no, no, Arizona got this one. And I did a record scratch, and I looked over and I was like, "Oh wow, it's another grand slam." And so I said, "Hey, buddy, every time they score, let me know." Well, guess what? The Diamondbacks scored 10 runs in that inning. It was 2-1. At the end of that inning, it was 11-7. It was a 7-11. It was a Slurpee score. And I'm like, "Oh my God, the Diamondbacks are up 11-7. Wow." Well, I went back to working with the kids. "Mrs. Sullivan, Mrs. Sullivan, he hit a 3-run homer." And all of a sudden it was 11-10. And then Tucker and Suzuki hit back-to-back home runs. And look at, I'm a paid union teacher. I can't be sitting in my classroom just sitting watching a baseball game. Thank goodness Dee was giving me updates. But that whole time I'd go to the next one. "Mr. Sullivan, Tucker just hit a home run. Mr. Sullivan, Suzuki just hit a home run." I'm like, what the heck is going on? And with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and it was 13-11, and Alec Thomas hit a double. And I looked over to D, and he looked at me, and he's giggling in his own way. And Corbin Carroll was up, and I said to him, "Watch him hit a game-tying home run." And D was kind of like, he's not the most demonstrative young man in the world, but he has a very endearing little chuckle. And so, at that point, I pulled up a chair next to D, and we watched it. And Corbin Carroll hit an infield pop, and that 13-11 game was over. Arizona, if you miss the playoffs by a game like you did last year, D and I are going to remind you. We're going to remind you of when a 10-run inning was not enough for you. Sullivan, they got another home run. They got another home run. You'll never know how accurate that is. It's one of my great joys in my life is putting a playoff game on in the classroom and doing my job, but getting updates from D. I would love it if Apple TV had me and D doing the play-by-play and me doing the color commentary. You would subscribe to Apple TV. It was your pal Sully and your pal D. I had a dream the other day. Have you ever had a dream that was so vivid that midway through your shower, you have to remind yourself, "Oh my God, that didn't really happen. That didn't really happen." I had one. And I'm not going to tell you everything in a dream because this is a family show. But I will tell you that in my dream, Game 7 of the 2025 World Series was playing. And there were things I was trying to watch Game 7 of the World Series, and things were dragging me here. There's a dragon outside. My 5th grade teacher was there. I'm running naked to the SATs. All those things that happened in dreams. But I kept trying to get back to watching the game. Now, here are the two things that were very, very vivid in my dream about Game 7 of this year's World Series. It was played between the Yankees and the Phillies. Phillies were the team that I picked to win the World Series. In the dream, Game 7 of the 2025 World Series was played in Philadelphia. The Yankees won Game 7 of the World Series. The Yankees won the World Series. They won Game 7 of the World Series, of this year's World Series, by a score of 3-1. So go to FanDuel or whatever you want and put the money on the Yankees winning Game 7 of the World Series in Philadelphia by a score of 3-1. And here is the other thing from my dream that was plausible. While it was a great victory for the Yankees and Aaron Boone and Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt and everyone was finally getting their first ring, the only thing that was on the news that people were talking about was at one point during the game, 2 Philadelphia fans ran onto the field at Citizen Bank Ballpark, stark naked, holding fireworks in their hand, and the fireworks went off, injuring them, and they had to be taken away in an ambulance. And more people were talking about the 2 dudes from Philadelphia basically mauling themselves with firecrackers instead of the Yankees winning the World Series. That was in my dream. And it was so vivid that while I was taking a shower after I woke up, I actually found myself thinking, I can't wait to hear what Stacy Gotsulias on Locked On Yankees is going to say about the Yankees winning the World Series and the dudes from Philadelphia, the naked dudes in Philadelphia, injuring themselves with fireworks. And then I realized it's April. And that didn't happen. But what I'm going to say is that could happen. By the way, Jackson09, who is a regular listener, has talked to me about, I'm old school when it comes to the ghost runner. I don't like it because the phrase like lead off 2-run homer is now a thing. Some changes I do like in baseball. I'm a grumpy old man about some things. I hate the universal DH. I hate the ghost runner on second. I love the pitch clock. I love it. You get in there and you pitch. You get in that box. Okay, I'm all for it. I'm all for the base running rules because I like stolen bases, and I like a fast-paced game. And so those are two rules that I enjoy. The runner on second is garbage. I was fine with it during the COVID year. Because that was a strange year, and we couldn't have pitchers going deep into the game. But I still have it's a tie after 12 because I don't want a 19-inning game in April either. Tie after 12. And if you take a pitcher out with 2 outs and nobody on, you have to have a letter from the governor. You can't just do that on your own. You have to show why this is something you need to do, and you need the governor to sign off on it, of whatever state you're playing in. And if it's being played in Toronto, then I don't know what they call the head of the provinces there, but because they're their own country. But there you go. And like once again, every first hit of the game has to be clean. You can go back and change if you want, but the first hit has to be clean. We're now in late April. And by the way, if you celebrate Easter, I hope you had a happy Easter. If you don't celebrate Easter, I hope you had a happy day as well. But here's my trivia question. It has to do with the fact that starting your season off right and having a good April. What year? And this may have happened more than once, so I guess this is when was the last time this happened. When was the last time the World Series was played between two teams that at the end of April had a .450 winning percentage or worse? That not only were they sub 500, they had a .450 winning percentage or worse, and those two teams faced off in the World Series. That's the trivia question. And there you go. Johnny T, I know you don't like the pitch clock. I do. It's kind of like, you know what? Sometimes I have to set rules in my classroom. It'd be nice if everyone just did the rules without rules, but sometimes you got to enforce them. But anyway, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't matter. I'm trying to wrap up the show, Johnny T16. Stop interrupting me. Talking about the rules for a no-hitter, a crazy weekend, a strange dream that I had, and why I absolutely love watching baseball games with my buddy D. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.